I decided to visit my wife at her job as a CEO. At the entrance, there was a security guard who said something that changed my life forever. Let me back up a second. My name is Kenneth Thompson. I'm 56 years old, and until that Thursday afternoon in October, I thought I knew my wife Linda better than anyone in the world. We'd been married 28 years, and I figured we had a pretty good thing going. I work as a senior accountant, mostly remote these days, pulling in about $95,000 a year. Nothing fancy, but steady. Linda's the CEO of Meridian Technologies, making around $200,000. She's always been the ambitious one, climbing that corporate ladder while I kept our finances straight and made sure the bills got paid on time. That morning, Linda had rushed out without her usual coffee, muttering something about back-to-back board meetings. I thought it might be nice to surprise her with her favorite latte and maybe grab lunch together. We hadn't done that in months. Hell, we hadn't done much of anything together in months, but I chalked that up to her being busy with work. The Meridian building is one of those glass towers downtown that screams success. 42 floors of chrome and ambition reaching toward the clouds. I parked in the visitor lot and walked through the lobby carrying the coffee and a sandwich I'd picked up from that deli she likes on 5th Street. The lobby was all marble and mirrors, the kind of intimidating corporate space that made me grateful for my quiet home office. At the security desk sat this older guy, maybe mid-60s, with gray hair and kind eyes. His nameplate read Marcus Porter. "Good afternoon," I said, approaching with what I hoped was a confident smile. "I'm here to see Linda Thompson. I'm her husband, Kenneth." Marcus looked up from his computer screen, his expression shifting from professional courtesy to something I couldn't quite read. He tilted his head slightly, studying my face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "You said you're Mrs. Thompson's husband?" His voice carried a note of confusion that made my stomach tighten.
"Yes, that's right. Kenneth Thompson. I brought her lunch."
I held up the bag, suddenly feeling foolish for making this surprise visit. Marcus's expression changed completely. His eyebrows shot up, and then he did something that froze my blood. He laughed. Not a polite chuckle, but a genuine bewildered laugh that echoed through the marble lobby. "Sir, I'm sorry, but I see Mrs. Thompson's husband every day. He just left about 10 minutes ago." Marcus gestured toward the elevators with casual certainty. There he is now, coming back. I turned, following his gaze, and watched a tall man in an expensive charcoal suit stride through the lobby. He was younger than me, maybe mid-40s, with the kind of confident bearing that seemed to own every room he entered. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his shoes polished to a mirror shine. Everything about him screamed success and authority. The man nodded to Marcus with familiar ease. "Afternoon, Marcus. Linda asked me to grab those files from the car." "No problem, Mr. Jefferson. She's in her office." Bradley Jefferson, I knew that name from Linda's work stories over the past 3 years. Her VP of Business Development who joined the company when they landed that big contract with the tech firms downtown. She'd mentioned him in passing, always in professional context. "Bradley thinks we should expand into the Seattle market. Bradley closed another major deal today." Always business. My hands felt numb around the coffee cup. The brown bag crinkled as my grip tightened involuntarily. Everything in me wanted to speak up, to correct this massive misunderstanding, but my voice had completely abandoned me. Marcus was looking between Bradley and me now, genuine confusion creasing his weathered features. "I'm sorry, sir, but are you sure you're Mrs. Thompson's husband? Because Mr. Jefferson here is married to her." The words hit me like physical blows. Married to her, present tense. Not was married, not claims to be married, but a simple matter-of-fact statement that shattered my reality. This wasn't some confusion about business partners or work relationships. This security guard genuinely believed that Bradley Jefferson was Linda's husband. Bradley paused mid-stride, his attention drawn to our conversation. When his eyes met mine, I saw something flicker across his face. Not guilt, not surprise, but recognition. He knew exactly who I was. "Is there a problem here?" Bradley's voice was smooth, controlled, the voice of a man accustomed to managing difficult situations. Something cold and calculating passed through my mind in that moment. Every instinct screamed at me to explode, to demand answers, to create the scene this situation deserved. But a deeper wisdom, born from 30 years of dealing with financial discrepancies and corporate irregularities in my accounting practice, told me to play along. When the numbers don't add up, you don't confront the client immediately. You gather more information first. "Oh, you must be Bradley," I said, forcing my voice to remain steady. "Linda's mentioned you. I'm Kenneth, a family friend. I was just dropping off some documents for Linda." The lie tasted bitter, but it bought me time to think. I watched Bradley's shoulders relax slightly, though his eyes remained watchful. "Ah, yes. Linda's mentioned you too, had she? What exactly had she said about me to this man who apparently went by my wife's husband around her office? She's in meetings most of the afternoon, but I can make sure she gets whatever you brought. Bradley's smile was perfectly professional, perfectly normal, as if we hadn't just had the most surreal conversation of my life. I handed over the coffee and sandwich, watching this guy who apparently went by my wife's husband take lunch I'd brought for my actual wife. My movements felt mechanical, disconnected from my brain. Just tell her Kenneth stopped by, of course. Bradley's smile was perfectly calibrated, friendly, but not too warm, professional, but not cold. The smile of a man who'd practiced managing awkward situations. I walked back to my car in a daze, my legs moving without conscious direction. The October air felt sharp against my skin, but I barely noticed. Everything looked the same as when I'd arrived 30 minutes ago, the glass building, the parking lot, the downtown traffic, but my world had fundamentally shifted. Sitting in the driver's seat, I stared at that glass tower through my windshield. 28 years of marriage, 28 years of sharing a bed, a home, dreams, fears, inside jokes that nobody else understood. 28 years of believing I knew this woman completely. My phone buzzed with a text from Linda. Running late again tonight. Don't wait up. Love you, love you. The words that had once brought me comfort now felt like another lie in what was apparently a web of deception I'd been blind to. I started the car and drove home through familiar streets that suddenly felt foreign. Our house looked exactly the same, the red brick colonial we'd bought when Linda first made partner at her previous firm. The garden she'd insisted on planting our second year there, the mailbox with both our names printed in careful script. Everything exactly as I'd left it, except now I knew it was all built on lies. Inside, the silence felt different. It wasn't the comfortable quiet of a home waiting for its occupants to return. It was the hollow emptiness of a stage set, a carefully constructed facade. I walked through rooms filled with our shared memories, vacation photos on the mantle, the ceramic bowl Linda had made in that pottery class she'd taken 5 years ago, the coffee table we'd picked out together when we redecorated the living room. Had any of it been real? I made myself a cup of tea and sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing. My mind kept replaying the scene at the office, searching for clues I'd missed, explanations that might make sense of what I'd witnessed. But there was only one explanation that fit, and it was one I wasn't ready to accept. The front door opened at 9:30, just as it had countless times before. Linda's heels clicked against the hardwood floor. Her keys jangled as she set them on the hall table. Normal sounds of a normal evening, except nothing was normal anymore. Kenneth, I'm home. Her voice carried the tired warmth I'd grown accustomed to over the years. She appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking every inch the successful CEO in her tailored navy suit. Her blonde hair still perfectly arranged despite her long day. She loosened her jacket with the same gesture she'd made thousands of times before. How was your day? I asked, the question automatic. I studied her face for any sign of deception, any hint that she knew about my visit to her office. There was nothing. Her expression was exactly what it had always been, tired, distracted, but genuinely glad to see me. Exhausting back-to-back meetings all afternoon. She moved to the refrigerator, her routine unchanged. Did you eat already? I nodded, continuing to watch her carefully. I actually brought you lunch today, to your office. Linda paused in the middle of reaching for a glass. For just a fraction of a second, something shifted in her expression. Then she smiled. You did? I didn't get any lunch. I gave it to Bradley to pass along. He said you were in meetings. Another pause, so brief I might have imagined it. Oh, right, Bradley mentioned someone stopped by. I had back-to-back meetings all afternoon, so I probably missed it. She poured herself a glass of wine, her back to me. That was sweet of you to think of me. I watched her pour the wine, noting how her hands remained perfectly steady. Either she was telling the truth, or she was the most accomplished liar I'd ever met. After 28 years of marriage, I was terrified to discover which one it was. The rest of the evening passed in a surreal pantomime of normalcy. We watched the news together, Linda commenting on a story about corporate mergers while I wondered if she was thinking about Bradley. We discussed our weekend plans. She mentioned needing to work Saturday, which now struck me as suspicious. We went through the same bedtime routine we'd followed for decades. As Linda slept beside me, her breathing deep and peaceful, I stared at the ceiling and wondered how many other lies I'd been living with. How many times had she come home from spending the day being Bradley's wife, only to slip seamlessly back into being mine? How long had I been sharing my life with someone who was living a completely different one when I wasn't around? The numbers man in me started calculating. 3 years since Bradley joined the company. How many late nights had she blamed on work? How many business trips had she taken? How many times had she mentioned his name in passing, conditioning me to accept his presence in her professional life while he was actually inhabiting something much more personal? But the questions that haunted me most weren't about timelines or evidence. They were simpler and infinitely more devastating. Who was the woman sleeping next to me? And who had I been married to all these years? The next morning arrived with cruel normality. Linda kissed my cheek before leaving for work, the same quick peck she'd given me for years. She wore her favorite perfume, the one I'd bought her for Christmas 2 years ago. Everything about her was familiar, comforting, exactly as it had always been, except now I knew I was kissing a stranger. I called my office and told my assistant I'd be working from home. For the first time in my 15-year practice, I couldn't bear the thought of discussing tax returns and quarterly reports with clients. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee that grew cold while I stared at Linda's coffee mug in the sink. She'd used it that morning, just like always. Had she been thinking about Bradley while she drank from it? By noon, I found myself doing something I'd never done before in 28 years of marriage, going through Linda's things. Not frantically, not desperately, but with the methodical precision that had made me successful in accounting. When you suspect financial irregularities, you follow the paper trail systematically. I started with the obvious places: her home office, the desk where she sometimes worked evenings. The drawers revealed nothing suspicious at first. Work papers, company letterhead, business cards from clients I recognized from her stories. Everything was exactly what it should be for a CEO who occasionally brought work home. But then I found something that made my stomach clench. A restaurant receipt from Romano's, the Italian place downtown where we'd celebrated our anniversary 3 years running. The receipt was dated 6 weeks ago. Dinner for 2 people, $73.57 for every ridge. I remembered that night clearly because Linda had told me she was having dinner with a potential client, a woman from Seattle who was in town for just one evening. I'd been proud of her for landing what she described as a significant account. We'd even talked on the phone that night around 9:30. She'd sounded relaxed, happy, describing her challenging but productive client meeting, but this wasn't a business dinner receipt. No appetizers or wine charges that would accompany client entertainment, just 2 entrees and a bottle of house red. The kind of intimate dinner you have with someone you're comfortable with. The kind of dinner I thought was reserved for us. My phone rang, startling me from my thoughts. Linda's name appeared on the screen. "Hey honey, just checking in. You seemed a little off this morning." Her voice carried genuine concern, the kind of caring attention that had made me fall in love with her 29 years ago. "Just tired. Didn't sleep well. Maybe you should take it easy today. You've been working so hard lately." The irony of her suggestion wasn't lost on me. While I'd been working hard at my small practice, she'd apparently been working hard at maintaining 2 separate lives. "Actually, I was thinking about that dinner you had with the client from Seattle, the one about 6 weeks ago. How did that work out?" A pause, so slight that most people wouldn't notice it. But after 28 years of marriage, I knew Linda's speech patterns like a musician knows scales. "Oh, that didn't pan out the way we'd hoped." She decided to go with a local firm. Her voice remained steady, casual. "Why do you ask?" "Just curious. You seemed excited about it at the time." "Well, you win some, you lose some. I should get back to this board meeting prep. See you tonight." After she hung up, I sat staring at that receipt. Either she was lying about the client meeting, or she was lying about the dinner. Either way, she was lying. I spent the rest of the afternoon like a detective in my own life, examining familiar things with new eyes. The credit card statements I'd always glanced at casually, trusting Linda to handle our finances since she made 3 times what I did. Now I studied them line by line, my accounting training kicking in automatically. Lunch charges on days when she told me she was brown bagging it to save money. Gas station purchases in neighborhoods across town, far from her usual routes between home and office. A charge at Barnes & Noble for $47.12 on a Tuesday afternoon when she'd supposedly been in back-to-back meetings. Linda hadn't bought a book for pleasure reading in years, claiming she was too tired after work to focus on anything but trade magazines. But the most damning discovery came from her laptop. She'd left it open on the kitchen counter, something she'd been doing more frequently over the past year. I told myself I was just closing it to save battery, but my eyes caught a notification bubble in the corner of the screen. Bradley Jefferson had sent her a calendar invitation. I shouldn't have clicked on it. I knew I was crossing a line, violating her privacy in a way that would have horrified me just 24 hours earlier. But 24 hours earlier, I'd believed my wife was faithful. The calendar invitation was for dinner tonight. 7 p.m. at Romano's, the same Italian place where they'd apparently been meeting regularly. The reservation was under Bradley's name. My chest felt tight as I scrolled through more calendar entries. Lunch meetings with Bradley that weren't labeled as business. Doctor's appointments that Linda had never mentioned to me. A weekend spa retreat 3 months ago that she'd told me was a women's executive conference. But the entries that made me physically nauseous were the recurring ones. Coffee with B every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m., dinner plans every other Thursday. Weekend planning marked for this coming Saturday when Linda had told me she needed to work. I was looking at a parallel life meticulously scheduled and carefully hidden. Bradley wasn't just her colleague or even her affair partner. Based on these calendar entries, he was her primary relationship. I was the side note, the obligation, the inconvenience worked around. The garage door rumbled open at 6:15. Linda was home early, unusual for a Thursday. I closed the laptop quickly, my heart hammering as I heard her heels on the kitchen tile. "You're home early," I said, hoping my voice sounded normal. She looked beautiful, I realized with a sharp pang. She'd refreshed her makeup, her hair was perfectly styled, and she was wearing the black dress I'd bought her for her birthday last year. The dress, she'd said, was too fancy for everyday wear. I managed to wrap up early for once. She moved past me to the refrigerator, her perfume trailing behind her. "I thought maybe we could grab dinner out tonight. It's been forever since we did anything spontaneous." The lie was so smooth, so perfectly delivered, that I almost believed it myself. If I hadn't seen the calendar invitation, I would have been thrilled by her suggestion. "Where did you have in mind?" I asked, playing along with this elaborate charade. "Oh, I don't know. Maybe that new sushi place on 5th Street. Or we could try something completely different." She was checking her phone as she spoke, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. I watched her type, wondering if she was texting Bradley. Was she canceling their dinner, rescheduling, or was this part of some elaborate game I couldn't even begin to understand? "Actually," she said, looking up from her phone with apparent disappointment, "I just remembered I have that conference call with the Tokyo office." It totally slipped my mind. She shook her head ruefully. "Rain check, of course. What time is your call?" 7:30 could run until 9 or 10. You know how these international things go. She was already moving toward the stairs, toward our bedroom where she kept her work clothes. "I'll probably just grab something quick on my way back to the office." I nodded, playing my part in this elaborate deception. "I'll make myself something here." She paused at the bottom of the stairs, looking back at me with what appeared to be genuine affection. "You're so understanding, Kenneth. I don't know what I'd do without you." The words that should have warmed my heart instead felt like ice picks. How many times had she said variations of this while preparing to spend the evening with another man? 20 minutes later, she came back down wearing a navy blouse and dark slacks, professional but attractive. Her makeup was perfect, her hair touched up. She looked like a woman preparing for an important evening, not someone settling in for a long phone conference. "I'll try not to be too late," she said, kissing my cheek. The same spot she'd kissed that morning, but now it felt like a betrayal. "Take your time. I'll probably turn in early anyway." After she left, I sat in our living room, surrounded by the artifacts of our shared life. Waiting photos on the mantle, vacation souvenirs on the bookshelf, the coffee table we'd picked out together 10 years ago when we'd redecorated. All of it was real, but none of it meant what I'd thought it meant. At 8:30, I found myself driving past Romano's. I told myself I was just going to the grocery store, that this route was perfectly normal. But when I saw Linda's silver BMW in the restaurant parking lot, parked next to a dark Mercedes that had to belong to Bradley, the last thread of hope I'd been clinging to snapped. They were in there right now, sharing the same kind of intimate dinner I thought was exclusive to our marriage. Was he telling her he loved her? Was she laughing at his jokes the way she used to laugh at mine? But instead of confronting them, I did something that surprised even me. I drove to the office supply store and bought a small digital recorder. Then I went home and started planning. See, Linda had made a crucial mistake. She'd been so focused on documenting my alleged emotional failures that she'd overlooked something important. I'm really good with numbers. And when you're really good with numbers, you notice when things don't add up. Over the next 3 days, I gathered evidence with the same methodical precision I used for audits. Linda's spending patterns, her travel receipts, her calendar entries. I used my legitimate access to corporate filing databases through my accounting work to research Meridian Technology's recent organizational changes. What I found was devastating. Linda had been making unauthorized changes to the company's corporate structure, positioning Bradley for roles that should have required board approval. She'd been essentially restructuring the company to benefit their personal relationship without proper oversight. On Monday morning, I made 2 phone calls that changed everything. The first was to Timothy Richardson, an attorney I'd worked with on some corporate matters. When I laid out everything I'd discovered, the adultery, the financial deception, the corporate governance violations, his reaction was immediate. "Kenneth, your wife has been using marital assets to fund an adulterous relationship while planning to divorce you. That's not just ironic, it's actionable fraud." The second call was to Richard Hayes, the chairman of Meridian's board. Richard and I had met at company functions over the years, and I'd always respected his straightforward approach to business. Richard, I need to bring something to your attention regarding corporate governance issues at Meridian. It's complicated, but I think the board needs to be aware of some structural changes that may not have been properly authorized. Over the next 20 minutes, I carefully outlined what I'd discovered, sticking to facts and avoiding personal details about my marriage. Richard listened without interruption, his questions growing more pointed as I described the unauthorized reorganization. Kenneth, are you saying Linda's been implementing major corporate changes without board approval? I'm saying there appears to be a significant disconnect between what's happening operationally and what's been reported to the board. And you're bringing this to me because I believe in corporate integrity and because the board has a right to know what's being done in their name. We filed for divorce that Thursday. More importantly, we filed first, getting ahead of Linda's carefully planned narrative with documented evidence of her deception. The corporate governance review at Meridian was swift and brutal. When the board realized that Linda had been restructuring the company to benefit her romantic partner without disclosing the relationship, her credibility evaporated overnight. Bradley was terminated immediately within a week. You can't be VP of Business Development when your judgment is compromised by undisclosed personal relationships with the CEO. Linda managed to keep her job, but barely. She was placed on probation, stripped of most decision-making authority, and required to report to a newly appointed chief operating officer who essentially supervised her every move. The divorce settlement reflected the reality of her deception. I kept the house in my retirement accounts. Linda kept hers, minus what she'd spent funding her secret life, but the most profound change wasn't in the legal outcomes or financial settlements. It was in my relationship with myself. For the first time in decades, I was living without the constant undercurrent of someone else's dissatisfaction. 6 months later, I met Margaret Collins at my church. She's a widow who appreciates quiet conversation and doesn't see my contentment as a character flaw. With Margaret, I learned that stability is a strength, not a limitation. At 56, I discovered that sometimes the best thing that can happen is losing something you thought you couldn't live without. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop enabling someone who's been systematically betraying you. Linda had been right about one thing. We both deserved to be with someone who truly understood us. She deserved someone capable of the same level of deception she was, and I deserved someone whose love didn't come with conditions and exit strategies. For years, I'd been trying to be enough for someone who had decided I wasn't. Now I was living with someone who loved me not despite my contentment with simple pleasures, but because of it. I learned that contentment isn't a character flaw, and that my capacity for loyalty and trust, while it made me vulnerable to exploitation, also made me capable of real intimacy with someone who shared those values. Sometimes freedom comes disguised as loss, and sometimes the most profound victory is simply refusing to continue playing a game where the rules were rigged against you from the start. Turns out, I wasn't the problem in my marriage after all. I was just married to the wrong person, trying to love someone who saw my strengths as weaknesses and my devotion as something to exploit.